Hello and welcome back to another video, and it is currently the 9th of December and we are currently in a status orange weather warning for storm Bram or Bran or something. I can't rightfully remember the name, but it's storm Bram or Bran. But we are currently in a status orange weather warning for wind and rain with gusts of up to 100 kilometers an hour to 130 kilometers an hour, with the risk of it being updated to a red weather warning. But as it currently stands, it's not as bad yet as they were saying it was going to come. We did get a heavy shower there just basically a few minutes ago before I picked up the camera to start recording, but other than that it's not really that windy. But again, our farm is sort of sheltered. You have sort of trees and then we have sheds around us and everything, so if I was to go out into a more open area it might be that little bit more windier and breezier. But here on the farm we're quite nicely sheltered. So today we're going to do a couple of jobs throughout the storm, the wind and the rain. So let's see what the first job is. I have a couple of jobs in mind to do, a couple of small ones, and the first one I want to do is this timber here. I want to put that into the transport box in the 135 and bring it to the other shed into a corner where the timber usually goes. And I want to then finish off cutting the lengths of logs, the timber that's below there. I already made a couple of clips of that already on a previous video of me cutting up the logs, so I want to just try and get more of that done and hopefully get it finished today. And I can bring the ones that need splitting in here, get them splitted, and once they're split they can be transported over to the other shed where these ones are going. So yeah, and when it comes to cutting them ones, we do have a stand over there with a ratchet strap, which is what I used last time. I don't know whether I use that now or not. What I might do is I could bring a lock of them up to here. I'll be under the shed then. I'll put a timber plank on the bale splitter here, and I'll use the actual bale splitter to secure the blade of the bale splitter to secure whatever logs in place, and then I can go along them with the chainsaw. The wooden plank then would stop me from clipping the prongs as well, so it's that extra little bit of security. But we'll see. First of all, we need to get the international moved out of the way, the 135 out, and get these shifted to the other shed.
Sometimes like all you want to do is run. Hear me out, hear me out. It's all
just a small pile that's there. I have more stuff here to cut as well, along with the ones that's out there. So we'll go and cut them up And while the 135 in the box is tuned up, we could throw all the bits that we cut up into the box and then bring them over to the other shed where the log splitter is to go and split them. Wouldn't be a bad idea. But I remember one year we had timber from this wall to maybe about somewhere there where those bags are, and it built all the way up to the roof there. There was a lot of timber there, a lot of cutting and a lot of splitting and a lot of drawing and a lot of building. It might be a while before we see that again, but I do have a couple of trees that are knocked over in a load of different fields of our own that I'll have to go over hopefully and get them cut up. And I'm hoping that the 135 and the twin wheels will be good enough, because the ground is currently quite wet and quite soft, and especially this time of year with the amount of rain that we be expecting for this time of year, they're not going to get any drier. So I'm hoping to get in maybe before Christmas or maybe after Christmas and get a lot of that cut up and brought home. But this stuff and the other stuff that I've yet to cut and split should see us for another couple of weeks anyways, hopefully. Here is my setup: the International 674, the bale splitter, a little plank to put the logs on, and this time we have the big boy chainsaw out because we're getting into more bigger lumps of these logs, and the smaller chainsaw is starting to struggle a small bit with them. Here's sort of a big lump that will take the small chainsaw quite a while to dig into, but there still is a few smaller ones in there buried underneath the more bigger, heavier ones. So I have the big boy out today, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift one of them up on here, but I'm going to have one of them overhanging so I can cut in the wires rather than have the knife and the bale splitter going roughly down the middle of them and it's sort of split even each side. I will try overhanging it first and see how that goes, and if it's a bit sketchy we'll just put the length roughly in the middle and secure with the knife. So let's get stuck into it.
I guess I'll never know. Losing almost all my energy. It's getting hard to talk to you, and I'm the only one who speaks. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know. Secrets start in your heart so slow. But if you don't wanna tell me now, I guess I'll never know. Here we go, turning all the wrongs into rights. Here we go, you can take me there tonight. Whoa, this life is all we know. Whoa, I can't stay if you can't let it go. I never really know what's going on, and even when you're next to me, I feel like you were gone. It's all the things you never show. There are the things I want to know. Secrets start in your heart so slow. But if you don't wanna tell me now, I guess I'll never know. But if you don't wanna tell me now, I guess I'll never know.
Slight problem. I was cutting away there, I done a few logs off camera, and then the next time the chainsaw stopped working. So it's in here. So what happened was every time I tried to squeeze the accelerator, usually the engine would rev and the chain here would spin. But I'd rev it and the engine would rev and get louder and louder and whatnot, but the chain wasn't spinning. So I thought maybe there was something stuck somewhere in here in the gubbets, and I cleaned out a couple of bits here and I tried it again and still no go. So I might have to bring that into an old shop there, and it deals with two-stroke machines like chainsaws, consaws, hedge trimmers and that sort of thing. But that's put a stop to that job and a damper on my day, because I thought I'd at least you know, get hopefully them all done. So I tried that and it didn't work, and then I'd done a bit with the small chainsaw, but it just wasn't really inclined to cut into the logs all that well, so I had to abandon that one as well. Now I don't know, is it the chain on backwards or is it blunt, but I checked the chain that's on the one-handed one to see where the teeth were facing, and again on this one, and they were all matching. They're all the same, they're all facing the same way, so the chain isn't on backwards and it doesn't feel blunt, but it might be blunt. So maybe when I'm bringing this in, I could bring that one in to get the blades or the teeth on it sharpened, or get a new chain or something on it. But that's just put a damper on my day now, because there wasn't a whole pile left, which I'll show you now. But there wasn't a whole pile left, and yes, there's a couple of small ones, and I thought I could get the small chainsaw to cut up the small ones, but even at that it just really wasn't cutting the way it was supposed to be cutting. And that's what I've done so far. It's not a lot, and this is the one that I started, a new one with the big chainsaw when it stopped, and then I've done maybe 2 or 3 cuts with the small one, but again it just wasn't cutting the way it should have been cutting, whatever is wrong with it. So that put me in a sort of a bad mood, but look, you'll have that on these big jobs, I guess. So I guess I'll park up the 674, I'll get the 135 over there and bring them over to the log splitter, and I might start splitting a lot of them, we'll see. But yeah, it is what it is. Also, when the chainsaw stopped, I had a quick look at it, I cleaned it out, and I mentioned all that before. I tried the small chainsaw on that, so I couldn't figure it out, so I went up and had a mug of tea and a bite to eat, and I came back down and I tried maybe looking at that a bit further, but again I couldn't get it working. But while I was having the lunch there and I was eating, I looked at the weather there, and although we are in a status orange weather warning since 10 AM this morning, the worst of the storm isn't coming until 3 o'clock for us, so that's not awfully bad. I don't know what time it is currently, but I did spend a bit of time trying to sort out the chainsaws and having a bite to eat. It is 2:30, so around 3 o'clock ish is when the worst is supposedly to come. So it is sort of misting and drizzling a small bit here, but so far we had a couple of showers, nothing too hectic, and the wind isn't all that strong either. So anyways, I'll get on with what I'm at here, tidying up. And it's turned rather wet. You probably can't really see it all that well through the lens of the camera, but yeah, it started raining basically when I was loading the timber into the box, but it only really sort of picked up when I was emptying it. And the jacket is a bit wet, but so is the 135 is also a bit wet. Anyways, I'll bring the International into the shed, into the under the roof and into the dry, and yeah, the wind isn't too bad, it's just the rain. Okay, so this is the next day, so it's the aftermath, the day after the status orange weather warning for storm Bram. Chainsaw is in town now getting fixed, whatever's wrong with it. Haven't heard anything yet to say if it's fixed or not. But just a quick report on the aftermath of storm Bram. Not really anything too hectic, no major damage or anything. Around the fields that I can see and around the farm near me, no trees have fallen down as of such, but there could be more trees in further away fields that have fallen. But it wasn't really the wind yesterday, it was more of the rain that really caused most of the havoc and the mayhem. Just a lot of rain fell by the end of the clip that you saw lashed and overnight. So yeah, anyways, nothing too major to report on, but what I want to do is a job here. So the calves here, there's currently 3 bales of haylage in there. We've started feeding the haylage. There'll be a video about that in the near future. But these calves here, especially the 4 bigger ones, not the ones that we're weaning off, they have horns on them, and some of them quite big. So over the weekend now we're hoping to call up a man to get them horns cut off them. But they cannot get their heads in with the horns into the water drinkers there to get water. So we're manually filling water for them here in a blue barrel, and they're drinking a sight of water because of the haylage, because it's a dry and stuff. So there's half a blue barrel here that we're filling manually through a tap and that, but we're filling this several times a day. So maybe to cut down maybe on half of that, we have this drinker here, which was in its place for the previous housing season, but there's a couple of holes in this and it's starting to leak a small bit. There's 2 small holes there. So what I have there is a tub of Tech 7, and I just want to put a spread of Tech 7 just there and make sure it's sealed up good and for, you know, once and for all properly, not go around where I think it's leaking and doing patches there, fill it up with water and it leaks again. I'll just do a nice big wide cover of Tech 7 up and down there. We'll gear up, I'll put the gloves on, set the camera up, and we'll get this sorted. We'll have to leave it maybe until tomorrow morning, but then tomorrow morning I can put that down there beside the other one, and then they'll have 2 water barrels to drink out of, and I won't have to be coming around checking them several times a day, maybe twice a day or 3 times a day at a stretch. So, and I can be off doing other jobs without having to worry about coming back to check up on these, you know, blah 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 and all that. So anyways, yeah, we'll get to at this and get this done. All Tech 7'd up. As you can see, I have a nice swipe there, and I have a nice swipe there, and I also just done a bit of Tech 7 around the hex bolts, or the hex screws in there as well. So big swipe, and it was usually around this region on this side that it was leaking on. The far side I believe is okay. So the main side was this side, because this side I already put a jollop of Tech 7 onto it, but I only done over the cracks and stuff. But this time I've a bigger area covered, so hopefully come tomorrow morning this will be all sort of dried up and stuck onto the drinker, and then I can tie it to the barrier here and secure it in place, and then there'll be 2 barrels full of water for them to drink out of. The weanlings, the calves that we've weaned off the cows, can get their heads in there to the drinker and get water, but it's these crowd here you can see with the big horns, this one and that one, and there's 2 more. They cannot get their heads angled right. The horns are just too big and in the way for them to get in to get the water from the actual drinker there itself. So until we get them cut off until the weekend, we'll have to manually fill water for them here. But when there's 2 barrels here, when they have the haylage, because once they eat a load of haylage they get very, very thirsty and they just drink a lot of water. And 1 barrel, you know, for all of them, not the weanlings are probably digging into the barrels of water as well. So yeah, just I think when there's 2 there, it'll make my life a little bit more easier, that I'm not going back and forth between jobs, having to check water and that. I can just stick to one job knowing that there's 2 full barrels of water there for them, and it should last them an hour or 2. Anyways, that sky looks a little bit threatening. It looks like it's going to make another drop of rain today, so I'll dump the gloves because they're covered in Tech 7, they're not wanted anymore, and I'll put the tube of Tech 7 back into the shed. But for me, that is it, and that is going to be the end of today's video. So thank you very much for watching. Not the ideal video that I was hoping for because of the chainsaw breakdown, but what can you do? At least we got some of it cut up, ready for splitting, and we have this all Tech 7'd up, ready to go for tomorrow morning, so it's not all dull and gloomy. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my merch, the link to that will be down in the description, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Take care.